Good afternoon and welcome to this episode in which I'm going to introduce you to the main critical questions that you are likely to hear when you present a research project from a post-structuralist perspective. You may already know, or you might find out later in your research life, that post-structuralism is not the mainstream perspective in social sciences, which means that you have to explain and defend what you're doing more often than others. So today's video is about the main critiques you get as a post-positivist and how to respond to them. First question. When you say that you are subjective in your research, isn't your research political and then therefore non-scientific? My research is political, as all research is political, in the sense that we choose our research topics, we choose what we highlight and what we leave out, and our social and cultural backgrounds also influence what we see and what we do not see so easily, and how we interpret social phenomena. Social acceptability and economic pressure influence what we work on and how. But I'm not alone. Even people who claim to be objective are political in the same way. They build their hypotheses and assumptions on their knowledge, and their logic is derived with a specific cultural background and socialization. They just say that they are not political and that they are objective. From my point of view, this is even more problematic, since all influences are there. It is just a sign of intransparency to not make them visible and to try to reflect on one's own position towards one's research question and research approach. Second question. If there are no universal truth or stable meanings, because it is all discourse, do you not undermine the quest for understanding, the search for shared values? How can you distinguish between good and evil? By saying that everything is constructed in discourse, post-structuralists do not mean that meaning can change dramatically every second and suddenly we no longer understand the world. Post-structuralists recognize that discourses grow over a long period of time and that they are quite stable in their meanings. However, post-structuralist perspectives also allow us to examine and acknowledge the changes in discourses that are taking place all the time, because a repetition of articulation can never be the same. The second part is more difficult for me to answer. When post-structuralists argue that there is no core in meaning, no in objects, not in identities, it is true that values that I find important and want to fight for, like protection of minorities, human rights, etc., are in danger, because they are discursively constructed and have no higher legitimacy because there is no universal truth. If we follow this perspective, dictatorships or torture could have the same legitimacy or non-legitimacy. And for me, this is really a limit of post-structuralism, because it is a leftist movement that criticizes society and science to make the world better. But when we go down to the ground, there is no inherent definition of what is right or wrong, I have to admit that. Nevertheless, we have to see that the majority of post-structuralists are working in a good cause by criticizing problems in society, and I think we can still imagine what is right or wrong. Third question. You are always deconstructing and criticizing existing power structures and knowledge production, but what would be positive alternatives? For me, research has no obligation to offer positive alternatives, and by deconstructing and showing what goes wrong, post-structuralists already have a lot to do. Revealing problematic structures also leaves space for imagining a better version. I think research is not there to do real politics, because we know they are compromises and we cannot start our research with compromises. Fourth question. If we are all just constructs of discourse, shouldn't we stop protesting and stop doing politics? Do we have no agency anyway? Post-structuralists don't say that we don't have agency, they just negate that identities are something inherent in people. This does not mean that discourses do not have the capacities to change. We see change in every iteration, and there is always space for counter-narratives or anti-hegemonic discourses. You can watch my video on dislocation to see how post-structuralists, or in this case Laclau Move, see the possibility of change. For me, it is important to protest and to do politics, and post-structuralism is not against that. Fifth question. If you are against essentialism and the reduction of complex phenomena, are you not undermining the importance of identity, culture, and historical context? I don't think that post-structuralists are against identity culture or historical context. Being against essentialism is a research perspective that claims that there is no inherent meaning, which doesn't mean that there is no construction of identity, culture, and history that can be important. It simply emphasizes that there should be a reflection on this, that things have not always been this way, and that dominant narratives can also forget or suppress alternative perspectives. Post-structuralists focus on the problem of legitimizing action through historical or cultural arguments and try to deconstruct the essence of it. I don't think that's a bad thing. And from minority cultures, identities, and histories, Gayatri Spivak's concept of strategic essentialism might be an interesting concept to look at. She says that for political protest and other reasons, groups can develop a strategic essentialist approach to unite under a particular banner to fight for goals. Sixth question. Post-structuralists focus only on language and neglect other important aspects of human existence, such as material conditions and economic realities. I understand that post-structuralism may give the impression that researchers are obsessed with language, but the notion of discourse does not neglect materiality, at least not the post-structuralism that I'm arguing for. In Laclau and Mouffe's sense, discourse is everything and therefore includes material things as well as economic structures and so on. From the point of view of research methods, this is more difficult to include elements that are not reflected in language, because post-structuralists see this as an entry point for the construction of meaning and therefore for the research. New materialism is one of the currents that criticizes post-structuralism for being too concerned with languages, and they emphasize the importance of meta to balance this research. I find this an interesting approach. That's all for now. Thanks for watching the video. If you have faced more critical questions you would like to share about, or if you have better answers or comments, then I'm happy if you share them with me. And if you like the video, don't hesitate to click on the small bell to be informed about the next videos.